Hello and welcome to this video on my Bank Reconciliation 2020 template. And in this video I'm going to go over how this template works and how it can save you time in doing your bank reconciliation. So this is a new version of a template that I worked on a few years ago, and so I put 2020 in the title here just to differentiate it. And so there's a couple features here that I'll go over that can save you time when you're doing bank reconciliation. One is the auto match feature. One is the reconciler that'll help you do side-by-side reconciliation easily. And the third is the audit trail, which will help when you're reviewing or if you want to correct any entries that you've matched. And so with the auto matching feature, I'll start there. What it does is it'll automatically match transactions that match a certain category, a key, and an amount. So this first transaction here is a match because it's a wire transfer for $35,500, and it's got a key, which is really just the date here, 02/01/20, and that corresponds to a previous outstanding item, again a $35,000, 02/01/20 for the key, and that's also a wire transfer. And so how this works is it's looking for all those three items for a match, because one of the things I wanted to prioritize is to minimize the possibility that there's some false positives. You want to make sure that it's not accidentally auto matching too easily. Otherwise, I'll defeat the process and it's going to cause more harm than good, I think. And so to create these rules, if I go to the Setup tab, I've got a category. These are the category names. So I've got checks, wire transfers, deposit. And I've got the identifier. This is how it tells me which of these groups it falls into. So if it has wire transfer in the description, it's going to classify it as a wire transfer category. For instance, if I go back in here, if I type in anything else, any extra string, it doesn't matter, because as long as wire transfer is in the description, then it's going to be a match. And the key that it's using is the date, which is what I've selected here. I've got other options that I can use, letters, numbers, alphanumeric, but I'm using date because for wire transfer, I'm imagining there's not going to be a lot of other details that you can sometimes use, so I just use the date. And so I'll show you another example for checks. So for instance, I've got CK number sign 1546 with a bunch of zeros after it. If I go back to the checks category, my identifier is CK number sign, and it uses the numbers after the identifier, and it has a length of a key of 4. So the reason that's important is because here I've got all these extra trailing zeros, but on my key it's only pulling 1546 because I've limited it to 4. If I were to go back here and clear this limit, this length, then what's going to happen is it's going to pull all these extra zeros. So if I don't want that, I should put a length there. And then there's also a field for a gap. So if I don't immediately want to pull the next 4 items, I want to skip the first number afterwards, I can put a gap of 1. And then what it'll pull is it'll skip the 1 and now pull 5460. And in this case, because it had extra numbers, it pulled the next 4. This one, 1547, it skipped the 1, but because there's only 3 numbers after that, it could only pull 547. So you can play around with this to see what you want your result to be. Like in this case, if I shorten it to 3, now it's just pulling the next 3 numbers. So it's a matter of playing around to see what the right solution is based on your items and how it shows up on your bank and on your general ledger. And so that's how the auto matching works. So obviously you want to put in as much detail as you can, because if I just put in wire in the description, then there's a possibility that it might classify other transactions as wire transfers, even if they're not, because if it has that word wire in there, it can again give me a false positive to say, okay, this belongs in that category, even though it doesn't. So that's one thing to look out for, is you want to provide as specific information, as details as you can, and that's why putting, let's say, CK number sign is better than just using CK. So it's just something to keep in mind, and yeah, the more detail you put in there, the better odds you'll have of having accurate matches in there. Now, if you don't have accurate matches, the good news is there's still a reconciler function that you can use. And if I launch this, it'll show me all the transactions from the bank side of things on here because I clicked on it while I was on the bank tab. So if I select this wire transfer of 5,000, what it's going to show up is all the wire transfers from the book side of things for 5,000, including the previous outstanding items here. So there's nothing on the current book tab, but I do have items from the previous. So if I select this 5,000 here, because these credits match these debits, I can match the selections. If I select too much, then it's grayed out and I can't reconcile this now. So you can do multiple items to one, but in this case, it's just a one-to-one, and I match the selections. Now you'll notice on this side, I've got much larger items that I have on here. So if I want to do multiple items, I have to make sure it's on the left screen, not the right screen. So for instance, if I select this item, I can't select multiple items on here, but I can select the multiple on here. So if I want to match this 1080 to multiple transactions, what I want to do is hit the swap button here, and it will just flip this around. So for instance, I select 1080, and now I can match it to these two transactions, hit match selections, and it moves on. Now, if you want to be extra careful in your reconciliation, what you can do is set up a confirmation screen to pop up when you're reconciling these items. So if I go back to on the book tab and I hit reconcile, now what's going to happen is if I'm trying to reconcile, this 15,000, now it's going to give me a pop-up saying, do you want to match these transactions? I hit yes to go forward. So it's just a little extra security if you don't want to accidentally match too quickly. But if you want to go through as quickly as possible, then obviously that might be a bit annoying to have a pop-up box. So I've defaulted it to off. And so that way, when you're manually reconciling these items, it becomes a lot easier to just go through them really quickly. And then there we go. So I've reconciled those. And that leads me to my third key feature of this template, and is it that it gives you an audit trail. So for instance, here I've matched 3 items: current bank row 6, current bank row 7, current bank row 8. And so what current means is it's the current period's transactions, whereas previous means the previous outstanding items. So if I go to current bank row 6, bank row 7, bank row 8, if I go into here, that's going to be row 6, 7, and 8 right here. And as you can see, they're all matching up to book row 5, which is what I've got here, book row 5. So the good thing about this is you can easily see what matched up to these transactions. That's where the audit trail can be really helpful, especially if you've made a mistake or you're trying to double check what you matched up. So it's a helpful way to be able to do that. One thing I'll note about the matching, the auto matching here is one difference from my previous file is in this template, what it's doing when it's auto matching is it's looking for an exact match, but it's looking for it's creating a unique combination of the key, the amount, and the category. In the previous version, what I had was it was looking for the sum of all those matches. So for instance, if there were multiple keys and multiple categories that were the same, it would take the sum of those and compare that to the sum on the other side, on the bank and book side. So it would be looking at the sum versus at an individual level. And this is what this new template does. It looks like at the individual item. So for instance, if you had one transaction matching one transaction, then this auto match will work well. The previous version would work better if you had, let's say, multiple credit card transactions on your general ledger, and on the bank side you only had one entry for the deposit, because then you're looking at the summations as opposed to the individual items. So based on the feedback I had from people using that file, is they preferred a method where you have a one-to-one auto match versus looking at the summations. So if you prefer that other approach, then the older template might be more what you're looking for, especially if auto matching is important. But at any rate, I mean, you can still use the reconciler to do a many-to-one matching system. So that's why I tried to make this template sort of the best of both worlds, and that you can do a bit of both on here. So yeah, the audit trail is the last key feature on here. I'll show you the couple other functions on here. One is to clear data, and what this macro is going to do is it's just going to wipe off everything off this template. There's also the reconcile month feature. If I click on this, it's going to ask me if my bank balance is 0 because I put nothing in there. And what this does is spits out a reconciliation based on the categories I selected on the bank side and the book side, and calculate my adjusted balances, and I can change the date based on what I want it to be. This again is not a new feature, same as in the previous version. Another feature once you're done is you can click to create a new month, and this is going to give you a warning because it's going to clear off the bank and book data, and it's going to push the outstanding items from there into the previous outstanding items. So if I hit yes, now if I go to previous outstanding, I've got the items from February on here as well as the old ones that weren't matched. And now I can start on a new month fresh. So that's in a nutshell how this template works. If you've got any feedback, any suggestions, please let me know. And yeah, feel free to test it out and let me know what you think. And I hope it saves you time. Thanks for watching.